perceive what is real, or do we make reality out of our perception? When we look into the past and see barbarity and mass delusions, do we chalk this up to ignorance? They didn't know what we know. But what do we know? As we shape our worlds bit by bit through enlightenment, scientific discovery, philosophical discourse, and deep analysis, are we moving miles and miles away from the deranged parts of the past? Or is it all an illusion? The distance? Is the knowledge that we've gained just obfuscating the fact that we're no better than we've ever been? One or two enticing influences away from another form of mass delusion and never-ending barbarity? In the Mouth of Madness is a unique take on delusion and insanity. Perhaps it's just what you believe that's the difference between civility and derangement. And if you can bend people towards believing certain precepts, you can get them to do anything. How much is life like a movie? Or is it, how much is a movie like life? What comes first? Does art imitate reality, or does reality imitate art? In John Carpenter's In the Mouth of Madness, we follow an insurance investigator, John Trent, who is hired by a publishing company to find a horror writer, Sutter Kane, who went missing just before finishing his new novel.
Kane disappeared 2 months ago without a trace. The police have turned up nothing.
Through a series of clues taken from the front cover of his paperbacks, Kane is believed to be in, oddly enough, a place from his books, a fictional town called Hobbs End. Trent ventures to where the clues lead, and finds that the town is, indeed, real, with the same streets, buildings, details, and characters from Kane's books. Kane is there as well, on the verge of finishing his new novel, titled In the Mouth of Madness, that he promises, once people read it, will bring on the end of the world. Why? Belief. Through the popularity of his books, that sell more than the Bible, Kane claims that his latest will drive people insane through making their reality and what's in his book indistinguishable. Kane is possessed and influenced by Lovecraftian creatures that make what he writes become real and are, seemingly, bent on the extinction of humans. They are the authors of a particular insanity that inspire Kane, who, in turn, inspires the readers of his work to descend into the world of the novel, into a horror story, a specific genre, with specific tropes, a mass delusion. In ancient cultures, communities of people would believe in a god and hear its voice in their mind. This type of delusion can still pop up today in certain groups, but according to the theory of the bicameral mind, that posits people 3,000 years ago and back, heard voices in order to think. Apparently, mass delusion unto hallucination ruled the world. The argument can be made that we've developed beyond the psychological problems of those who came before us. But consider the popularity of religions, the influence of political parties, the spread of popular philosophies and mimetic devices in pop culture and public discourse. Could we be living in an upgraded version of bicameralism at the moment? But instead of the voice of the gods, it's the voice of the writers in our heads that we adopt as our own way of thinking. In the book, The Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch, written by Philip K. Dick, we read a dark allegory on what becomes of humanity when they give themselves over to a certain popular influence. In the future world of the novel, people take a drug called Candy, in which, under its influence, models of homes, people, and towns become reality, and groups can inhabit the same fantasy world. Those who consume the drug call it a religious experience, causing a pseudo-cult to form around its taking, and there is a discussion about whether they are actually inhabiting another world. Then, in the story, a new drug starts to emerge, Chu-Z, which allows its users to inhabit worlds of their own making, where they are able to change and alter what they want. The drug is introduced on the planetary colonies surrounding Earth through its daughter, Palmer Eldritch, an astronaut and explorer who, after crashing on Pluto, is rumored to be a different person entirely, maybe even possessed by an alien entity. He now sports 3 stigmata, robot eyes, steel teeth, and a mechanical arm. Once a person takes Chu-Z, Palmer shows up in their hallucinations, gaining a sort of omnipresence through the ingestion of the drug, and allowing him the ability to manipulate and control users. On Earth, candy is massively popular, but now, with the emergence of the superior Chu-Z, which offers a completely personalized reality, a good deal of the planet could end up switching and becoming one with Palmer. Palmer, through the drug, becomes like a god, omnipresent, inner-present, presiding in the mind. With Candy, the takers are limited to the world of the models, and with Chu-Z, their world is limitless. But the price is the permanent residence of an unwanted entity, a nightmare no doubt, the bicameral mind. But instead of a voice emerging from our own mind, making it therefore perhaps escapable, it's a real presence that cannot be shook, akin to a demonic possession. An interesting moral asking the question, if given the right sales pitch, what could we accept? If already so fixed into a certain way of thinking, a certain set of precepts, a certain line of logic or philosophy, or just some good old-fashioned writing, entertainment pleasing to consume and contemplate, what else could we be convinced of if the writers continue to write? In the film, some unknown force is propelling the world into a craze through the popularity of Kane's novels. The words take on a sort of supernatural power, and when read, the reality of the novel becomes the reality of the reader. Just like how when candy is taken, the models become reality to the taker, and when Chu-Z is ingested, reality becomes an amalgam of a person's wants and desires, and whatever Palmer manifests, begging the question, what's driving the realities of our own personal inner worlds? Or, in other words, what did we accept into our lives and into our heads to end up, whether in situation or disposition, where we are?
He sees you. Right, tell him I say hi.
But, in actuality, allegory aside, can words hold such influence, and do the writers hold such power?
Whoa, we're not talking about reality here. We're talking about fiction. It's different, you know?
A reality is just what we tell each other it is. Sane and insane could easily switch places if the insane were to become the majority. You would find yourself locked in a padded cell, wondering what happened to the world.
What genre is life? Depending on where we are, who we're with, our circumstances, what we're doing, and how we're feeling, we might find ourselves in a drama, a comedy, a mystery, a noir, or something more akin to horror. For most of us, nothing truly horrifying. But that's part of the thrill of watching a horror film. What would I do in these circumstances? Run? Fight? Freeze? In exercising our own free will, while in the character's shoes, what course would be best? Or does it matter? The characters are at the whim of the screenwriter. We're not watching their choice, we're watching the writers. But what of our choices? How much are they up to us? There is a theory about free will that states there is no free will. When we're born, we have a specific structure to our brain and selection to our genetics which spurs on our perceptions and therefore shapes every decision we make. So are we just a collection of neurochemicals and firing neurons whereby every action, reaction, and interaction is simply an extension? Is free will only an illusion? Well, regardless of the answer, many psychologists and philosophers believe that it is absolutely necessary for people to believe in free will. Studies conducted on those who don't believe in free will found that they took less responsibility for their actions and were more apt to give in to baser impulses. The logic most likely being, we are what we are, unable to change. So what's the point of even trying to be better? But nonetheless, the same study found that belief in a free will to do the respectful and responsible thing led people to do it. Perhaps it is belief that shapes our worldview, and therefore, our actions. A belief system, or a set of mutually supportive concepts considered to be true, becomes a perspective. A belief becomes a personal reality. In what is called genre theory, our day-to-day lives generate certain types of situations which generate typified responses. These codified situations carrying codified responses is what is referred to as a genre. The genre found throughout our day-to-day is a platform for a shared understanding where certain behaviors are expected and a specific social context is built. The genre of work, the genre of family, the genre of relationships, or perhaps these are all subgenres of a much more far-reaching genre, the genre of human behavior, the genre of personal identity, the genre of life itself. Maybe, within the context of all these genres, we're more than aware of their existence and are just trying to play along, trying to keep up with a purpose in mind. We don't really believe that job decorum is the best way to conduct ourselves in a workplace. We just don't want to be disciplined or fired. We don't really think that all the actions needed in order to attain and keep a partner are really that superlative or even necessary, but we follow the rituals anyway, so we don't upset a delicate connection or end up alone. A good deal of people fully accept and integrate into the genres a part of life. Some don't. But even if we don't believe the genre is absolutely necessary, we still believe that we need to adhere to its contextual parameters in order to receive what we want and need. So in adhering to the genres, we're still acting out each typified response as if we had fully accepted and integrated into them. Is there really a difference then between
A lot of you are controlled by these world religions, which is all bullshit. A lot of you are controlled by the school system, which is more lies and bullshit. A lot of you are controlled by them telling you to be successful, which is all going to burn soon anyway, so it's still bullshit. A lot of you are controlled in many different ways. You believe your presence, government, and so forth, which is still bullshit, and a lot of you sit up there are still controlled because you have not came to the truth and you believe in things that is not true. You believe in fairy tales and lies that the white man made up. Bullshit. And unfortunately, a lot of you still codependent on this government for food and so forth. And most of you have not even started preparing or even storing your food to go to the wilderness because they control you. And next is going to be the chip. And it will fully control you because you're walking right down the path of the control system that they put in place, which is nothing more than a beast system. And when that chip gets implanted into your brain, literally, you'll do whatever they say because most of you are already doing whatever they say and you don't realize it. Part 2 will be coming